her uncle said to me, oh, there was a guy from Bournemouth who actually wanted to marry her and she wanted to marry him, but your ex-mother-in-law chose you, but your ex-father-in-law chose this guy from Bournemouth. I said,
one of the main reasons for our discussion today was because you've obviously been through a divorce, and I wanted to know about the whole divorce process, your feelings, how you felt, because it's never seen as a male's point of view. It's always about the female, and we're trying to raise awareness and educate people that it's actually okay to be divorced. We're not promoting divorce, but we're actually saying that people that are divorced, they are normal people as well. They have feelings too, especially males. So I want you to tell me, like, how did you meet your ex wife?
yeah. So it was an arranged marriage. I only met her once, actually. It was through a family friend. And the meeting, I think, took 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I remember it was in a room near an attic in sort of my ex-in-law's home. I was terrified because I was thinking, gosh, where have I come to? And I went into the room. I saw my ex there. I saw there was a little child there. And, first impressions do last. And of course, I was attracted, and I thought, yeah, she looks absolutely fine. But for me, I remember at that time, I was thinking, concentrate and focus on the person, not just on the external factors. Look at the person. Can you hold a conversation? Can you engage with this person? Do they have your type of personality? So I'm an extrovert, so I like, I like to be outgoing. I like to explore things, travel, whatnot. So I remember having some conversations with her, or try to have conversations with her. She wasn't responding much, and of course she was looking down. Obviously, of course she was shy and whatnot. I think the only time when anything did really come to life in those 10-15 minutes was the fact that I was asking some questions, and because I wasn't getting much answers, I started asking the most strangest of all questions anyone in any scenario could ask in this particular situation, which was, do you like bananas? And when I said that, she looked up, puzzled, and started laughing. And I said, oh, at least I got something from that meeting, So I went away from that meeting thinking, gosh, we spoke about food as usual. And I mentioned, did she like bananas or not? And that's it. That was the end of conversation. I took from that she was an introvert. I could tell. On that meeting, I felt I needed another meeting, or I needed to engage with her more, because obviously 10-15 minutes, let's be honest, there's not much you can know about someone in those minutes. So what had happened was, before leaving the home, I thought, you know what, let me just see if there's any way I can get her number. So I do remember that basically she was working in a particular school, and one of her uncles that I knew was a very good friend of mine at that time. And he was just showing me around his school, and I realized that there was a name there of my ex, and I was like, okay, that must be her, and there's a number there. And me being me, I thought I'll be cheeky and I'll just pretend that I didn't see it, but I did see it, and I took the number down. And I thought, you know what, let me use this Ramadan to engage with her, to see how she is, those sort of things. Every time I called, I realized, or every time I text, I realized she kept on putting the phone down, right? And I said, look, don't you want to get to know me? Or don't you want to, and she wouldn't say anything and put the phone down. I was like, okay. And then apparently I heard, but I don't know if this is true or not, I heard from one of my family members that she wanted a second meeting with myself, but it didn't transpire. What then happened was, my mother wanted the marriage to happen within 3 months. Now, what happened was, sorry, I'm jumping too much ahead. My mom said the next morning, what did you think, after we went to see her? And I said, I'm not quite sure, but I'd like a second meeting. And my mom started crying. I was like, what are you crying for? She goes, because I already said yes to them, and you can't back out now. I was like, okay. And at that time, I would say I was naive at that time, and I was young, and I was one of those people who thought you have to listen to your parents, and if you don't, then you're gonna go to hell. Those sort of things.
Yeah.
So I just went along with it, and my mum had already said yes to them, and I said, "Why did you say yes to them when it's about me and this other individual, right?" She said,
Yeah.
"Because these people are rich, we're not rich, and they've got riches, and sort of they've got, like, um, they could buy you a house, they could look after you. You don't have a good job. I was like, is it about money, or is it about, Dean? Is it about personalities and whatnot? Anyways, I didn't get much further with my mother at that time. And she proposed to them to say within 3 months, let's get it done, right? It didn't happen. In fact, my ex-in-laws kept on avoiding my mother until my mother called my ex-uncle-in-laws, and I think she had a rant. They came over within 2 weeks to decide on the date in terms of marriage. This was from the time of seeing her up until that time. It was literally 6 months. Okay.
Wow.
Meeting had not happened. There was nothing whatsoever. And I said to my mother, I said, "You're rushing things. I need to know who this person is, etc." She goes, "No, it's done. That's it." So the dates were arranged and whatnot. So literally from the time, I would say approximately from the time I saw her till the time we actually got married, had our nikah done, it was 9 months, you know. And yeah, and do you want me to go on in terms of what happened afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I just have one question. In the 9 months, did you speak to her during that time period at all?
She said to me at one time she didn't want to speak to me whatsoever, or she didn't want me to text. And I thought, oh dear, okay. And to me, it didn't seem that she was happy. I felt she wasn't happy. That's what I felt anyway, which transpired later on in various ways throughout our marriage before what had happened. So yeah.
Okay, so then obviously I assume after 9 months you got married then.
It did. Yeah, that was another thing as well, because on the day of the nikah, which would happen in the masjid, my mum obviously was calling the shots. I was being shouted at and whatnot. I don't know why. And had the nikah done, went to the hall where I saw her for the first time after those 9 months. Now, I must say this, okay? Seeing someone for 10 minutes or 15 minutes and then seeing them like 9 months later, a world of difference can happen. Things can happen, okay? I didn't recognize her, and I'm not talking about because of sort of her bodily figure. It's nothing to do with that. It was actually more to do with the fact that I didn't see the same glow in her face that I saw when I first saw her for those 10, 15 minutes. I felt like, is it me who's getting forced, or is it her? What's going on here? Like she doesn't seem happy. You know, when the sharing of the cakes and the milk and all that. None of that happened, right?
Oh.
Because what happened was, as soon as I was made to sit next to her grandfather sort of came over and said, "What are you guys doing?" And I was like, what's going on here? And he goes, "Nah, none of this is going to happen under my watch." And then I think all the women folk were upset. They made a big hoo-ha, whatnot. And then eventually what happened, he grabbed my hand, right? Her granddad grabbed my hand and said, "Come with me, get to the car right now." I was like, huh? And then I did. Obviously, I was like, what's going on here, right? I did. And then he made my ex-wife say, "Hey, none of this. Go home now. He's your husband. You go with him, and that's it." So then she went into the car. Of course, she was bawling her eyes out. Of course, she was crying. Of course, I was upset because I was thinking, well, that's the quickest thing I've ever seen in my life. From the time of the nikah to even sitting, it literally took 1.5 hours, where the idea was to stay all night and whatever, right? For a couple of days, all of that was diminished. So then she was in the back of the car, I was in the back of the car, and now we're driving home. At that time, I was thinking in my head, tell me this is not a movie, or tell me this is not happening, right? And she was crying, and I was just trying to talk to her. I said, look, everything will be okay, and I'll look after you, this and that. Of course, I didn't know who she was properly, and I was just saying all of these things because it's the best thing I could do. Because obviously, as much as I was saying to her, I'll look after you, I was thinking to myself, you better look after yourself as well. Do you know what I mean? Because you're
Yeah.
being into this as much as she is. Um, got home. Um, she quickly said to me, she goes, look, I'm not comfortable with anything whatsoever, because she used to wear the niqab. Uh,
Okay.
so she wasn't comfortable with anything, no men, whatever. I said, that's fine, absolutely. So I said to everyone, when we went to my mother's house, I was staying there at that time, there was like decorations and people in the house and all that stuff happening.
Yeah.
But she wasn't happy with all of that, and she goes, look, I just want to go to sleep. I'm like, all right, no problem. So went in the house. She went to sleep. There's me, like, sat down having biryani and curry on my own. And, like, I might as well have this whole cake by myself. Why not? Um, so then, um, of course, sort of we slept that night. Of course, there was no marriage consummation whatsoever in any way. Of course, I was very careful because I didn't know her. You need to get to know someone, before any sort of intimacy, whether mental, physical, even in any other sense of the word. And I was very respectful in relation to that. And I'm being very open about that because not many guys will be open about that. And then I believe it was the next day when I woke up, had a massive headache, and I realized she was downstairs, and my mum was already telling her, like, make sure you cut. Like, there's a Bengali tradition of cutting their fish's head or something. They're cutting the fish, right? So my mum was making her do that 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh my god. She was doing all of that, and obviously I could easily sense that she wasn't comfortable. And well, honestly, the truth is, I took her out every single day. I wanted to treat her, this and that, because I thought, okay, this is probably my way of trying to show her that I'm outgoing and etc. and all that, and away from the cultural normalities of marriage. Like the cutting of his head and whatnot. It just, I don't know what it was, but there seemed to be like a wall, like when you can sense someone's not happy, and you just don't want to force them, like to be in a situation where they're never going to be like. I just didn't know what to do other than just be myself and treat it to food and whatnot and everything. Um, However, what I would say is this: on the second day of our marriage, on that very night, we had a phone call at 11 o'clock at night. And I remember she was sat up. I was lying down in bed. I was asleep actually. And first thing I could hear when I woke up at 11ish at night was screams, like she was screaming on the phone. And then I said, "What's going on?" And she wouldn't talk to me whatsoever until my mum heard the screaming, and she was, "What's going on?" So I opened the door. I said, I don't know what's going on." Like, and then my mum sat next to her. By this time, I thought, well, you're not going to tell me. It's fine. Just tell my mum. I don't, whatever. And then she told my mum that her entire family were in a massive car accident. Um, so her dad, her nieces, the Dulabai, various people. What had happened was, after our marriage, her dad, who had a 7-seater car, went to Oldham, then went to Manchester, and then back to where they lived. And because the father was quite elderly, something happened, but that they were driving back, and a lorry sort of went into them, and the whole car toppled down the bank, and the doors were flung open. And I believe her youngest brother didn't have his seatbelt on or something like that, and he was flung 20 odd yards away from the car with his face down in murky water at midnight. And there was helicopters. They had to close the whole motorway down. And I found this out from my mum, but obviously she was crying and telling me all of this stuff. I was like, ya Allah, this is the first test. So that time I just passed my driving test. I had no car. I barely knew how to drive on the motorway, let alone anywhere else to go. I just passed my test, no car. And 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm asking around my cousins, can I borrow a car? And everybody said no, until my sister said, you can borrow my car, but I don't think I've got any petrol in. And the nearest petrol station was 10 miles away. So I said to my ex, I said, look, come in the car, let's go. There's me trying to be macho. At the same time, I'm terrified because, I'm dealing with everything simultaneously at the same time. So anyways, I put my sister's car on. You know when the petrol's underneath the red line or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, OMG. Cars thinking, oh my God, how do I drive 10 miles like this? So I was doing like 30, 40 miles an hour on a 60 mile an hour sort of stretch. Got to the petrol pump, filled up petrol like that, filled up the whole tank, and then we traveled down to where she lives. As we were traveling, she started to open up slightly, like just talking, because I think she realized that I was really tired, I was shattered, and then she just wanted to keep me awake and all that. And trust me, I was tired and I was like shattered. Anyways, got to the hospital. Blood everywhere. Even in the corridors, there was blood everywhere. Saw my ex-father-in-law, cracked ribs, cracked head, blood everywhere. I just cried. Yeah, I just couldn't take it. I was just crying so much. And then, but then I looked around and I said, "Where's my wife?" Like, I didn't know where she went. She went somewhere. And then I saw CPR being done to her brother because he nearly died right in front of my own eyes. So you can imagine, like, the emotions of marriage and this and whatnot. And I just said to her, I said to my ex, I said, you know what? You stay. I'll come and visit you every 2 weeks, right? Because you need to look after your parents. And I said, I'll tell my mum, I'll tell my family, don't worry. And that's what I did. And she kept on saying, no, what will your mum say? I said, forget my mum. I'm making the decisions here. Your family comes first. Go ahead and do it. And that's what she did for nearly 2 years.
Wow.
By then, marriage wasn't consummated, nothing. 2 years, I kept on going down every 2 weeks. I had my job manager telling me, you're going to lose your job if you keep on doing this. I said, I don't care. Family comes first. Anyways, so during that time, as everybody got healed and everything was obviously getting back to normality in some way, her parents said to her, oh, go back with your husband, right? He's been so generous, letting you, with us and whatnot. She was like, oh, I don't really want to go back with him. And they said, have you forgotten how much he sacrificed just to allow you to go elsewhere? She goes, I don't care. I'm happy with you guys at home and this and that. Anyway, they forced her to come back. I heard afterwards. She came back and she goes, I don't want to live in your mom's house. I want our separate house. And this whole marriage, the first thing she said, this whole marriage is a lie. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, well, you're not rich, are you? I said, okay, I'm not. And? Well, I don't want to live with your mom. I don't like her. I said, after all the support that we've given you, like, come on, She goes, no, it's my rules. I'm rich. And if you're richer, that means you have more, what did she say? More control, that's it, over affairs when it comes to marriage and stuff in life and whatnot. Your job is crap. My job is better than, my job or potential job is better than yours and whatnot. I was like, wow. Anyways, so we got a flat within a month. I think everything will be okay. My mum obviously was upset. I don't have a dad. My dad died when I was 10. And my mum thought, okay, fine, go then. So I said, all right. Had our own place. I thought everything would be hunky-dory. Everything was okay for the first couple of months until she said to me, she goes, I don't know if I can do this anymore or not. I said, look, we don't have kids. We don't have kids. You obviously, you're entitled to go back to your mum's and all that. I'm more than happy to take you back. You'd rather do this now than later. If you have kids, it gets more complicated and whatnot. She goes, no, but not what will people say. What will your mum say? I said, forget what people say. This is your life. You can do what you want, and you don't have to be with me. I'm happy to let you go and whatnot. Let's do it amicably, She goes, no, I don't care. Let's stick together. I said, but sticking together for what reason? Anyways, we stuck together. That is when she said to me that I'm not happy with this rented home. I said, why? She goes, I want my own home now. I said, okay. I said, I can't support you in that. I don't have the means for that. She goes, it's okay. I'm rich. You're poor. We're millionaires. So we'll buy the house and you pay my mum and dad off for the rest of your life. I said, I'm not gonna do that. I said, first of all, it's interest, and I don't want to get into mortgage and all that. And I said, we're happy as we are in this rented home. She goes, no, ownership of property is my main concern. I was like, so then there was a massive bisar, like a consultation thing between her family and my family. And my mum just said to their family, take your daughter back. She's not being respectful. And I said, nah. And I said, no, I want to try and see if this works or not. So what happened was, in the end, long story short, in the end, I just said to them, yes, if you want to get a house and she wants to be happy, that's fine. But I want to make some conditions. Number one, I'm not paying a penny back to yourselves. That's if you want to get a house, that's your own accord.
did you know, like you said, that her heart wasn't in this marriage from the beginning, even the wedding day. It seems like her heart was not in this.
Yeah.
Didn't your mum or your family see that? Did they not do anything about?
All they were bothered about, let's just get a wedding done and that's it. You know. Believe it or not, I engage and I communicate with my ex for the sake of the kids. Before I couldn't, but now I'm able to negotiate and, you know, text. It's not call, obviously. I feel she's happy, you know. I feel she's happy in the sense that, okay, she's near her family and whatnot. Of course, when you have kids, there's collateral damage and, you know what, and this and that. But I think, and I hope she sees, I think she does see that, fine, we didn't work out, but I am a good father to our kids. So I'm not going to say my kids, our kids. And that she can, I actually feel sorry for her. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know what traumatizations happened to her. But, you know, I know people might say, well, she's partly to blame for what's happened to you and all that. I can go down that route. But like I said in the Zoom call the other day, look, credit is where it's due. She's a fantastic mother. Things don't work out sometimes when it comes to relationships. But that's the respect I'm going to give her, and that's it.
That's very, very big of you, I'd be honest with you, considering obviously what you went through with her and her family and your family as well. Just a very quick thing, actually, just the last thing, because I know you do have to go. What advice would you give to others? Just what advice would you give to men out there that are going through a divorce?
I would say you're not alone. I really would say that find a support group, and if not, create a support group for others. In fact, I'm actually dealing with one of my cousins who got married last year, end of last year, and his wife chucked the wedding ring in the bin, went out drinking, sleeping with other men, and he's suicidal. And his mother's very, you know, and there are a lot of men who are suffering out there. And I would say, stick together. There's no shame in talking about what has happened to you. You know, you're not a misogynist if you talk about the fact what's happened to you. I know we're in cancel culture nowadays and whatnot. I get that. But the point is that there is life at stake here. And everyone's valuable in their own right. You know, there are women who abuse men and there are men who abuse women. And I would say to men, find a support group. If not, create one. Be happy. And you're not alone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.